This is probably the most iconic guitar, and a 19-year-old boy up in San Dimas made it. His name was Carl Sandoval. Randy saw George Lynch with this guitar backstage one night, of course without the polka dots, and he liked it. So he went to visit Carl and had the guitar made. These, the frets are supposed to be bow ties. I think they look like propellers, but they're supposed to be bow ties.
And the bow ties are supposed to represent his days from Quiet Riot when he iconically wore the bow tie, polka dot bow tie. And I think Randy has synonymously been equivalated to both polka dots his whole career. So.
When he first had this guitar made, he was in Quiet Riot.
Right.
Yeah, he had not joined Ozzy yet. And he actually dropped it 3 weeks after he got it. And it broke right here where the headstock begins because his strap lock failed. And he took it back to Carl, and Carl repaired it. Did a real good job. You can't really tell, and it didn't affect the guitar's tuning or the way that it sounded.
On this side, you'll notice there's a bunch of black tape. So when Randy did join Ozzy, they had, especially with the Diary tour, not prior to that, the Blizzard, Sharon had Randy put the black tape on because when he came out on stage, he was already out there, and they didn't want the glare from the guitar, the audience, to see it. So when he came out, he held this side, and then as the concert started, he flipped the guitar to the other side. So that's the story with the tape.
This guitar right here was the collaboration, the making of it was the collaboration between Randy and a gentleman named Grover Jackson. And the guitar was a prototype. When it was first made, they had no idea that it would go into mass production. So you want to tell them what the shape, the significance of the shape?
So the story, as I've heard, was Randy flew on the Concorde, which no longer exists. And he was so impressed by that flight when he flew to England and back again, that he, on a napkin, drew the initial plan for this guitar. And so, iconically, he is associated with the design and originality of this Jackson guitar.
There was different degrees of length on the fin, and at one point the fin was longer. And Jackson said to Randy, "Let me cut it down. Let me cut it so that it's more like this guitar and not out here." And Randy couldn't watch. He couldn't watch him saw the end of the guitar off. But
he wanted the shape just right, so he kept tweaking it.
Yeah.
He got it right, going back and forth and cutting it.
Some of these guitars have a real long fin. So this one I think is pretty much the standard right here, but you can see that it's real well worn. I mean, this is a nice brass piece of hardware, and it's all the way down to
This is from, I believe, his straps and his buckles that he wore from his costume that took the brass plate off.
It took it right down to the bare metal. Right even below there's a coat of something under the brass, and it took it below that. So the guitar's in good shape, but it had a lot of wear. A lot of wear, been all over the world. These are the famous white Marshall amps, the white Tolex that Randy's known for using. And there's two interesting facts about them. Number one, when Randy was playing on the Sunset Strip in Hollywood, I asked him once, "Well, everybody's playing Marshalls. Do you think that you'd want to play Marshall?" And he said, no, I stick with my Sun cabinets and my PV head. Then he went to England and he had a chance to go to the factory, and he picked these out. There was 6 cabinets, and the white head here. He used other heads, but I don't think they belonged to him. And what was really interesting was that he did the same thing with the Sun cabinets that he did with these. He took the speakers that comes with them and he ripped them out and he put Altec Lansings in. So these are some heavy cabinets. But after he got these, I guess he got used to them and he swore by them. I mean, from that time on, he was a Marshall guy. But I distinctly remember when he was in Quiet Riot, everybody had Marshalls and he said, no, I'm not gonna go that way. So when we took these out before, about 10 years ago, an interesting thing happened. On the bottom of this head, stuck to it, was the set list. She's holding it. Was the set list to the very last concert that Randy ever did.
On the set list, it lists every song, and right here is Randy's handwriting that mentions each guitar that he played with each song.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Randy's handwriting, so someone, I think, wrote that. But he has it written which guitar he played for which song.
So this is the famous chip pan. That's what Ozzy named it. I guess it made noises between Randy using it, like the machine that cooks fish and chips in England. And the funny thing about this was that it was kind of like haunted in a way. Randy always worried about it, and it would pick up radio signals and do different things. And so it was kind of it's something that he worried about, that he fretted about this, that it wouldn't work.
If it broke down sometimes at concerts, and he'd be really upset because this was what made his sound. This was the mother of what was so important to him to get his sound just right. And as you can see, if you look at this pedal, you can actually see his foot imprint as he left it from using it. So
when Bernie Torme took over for him abruptly, they hadn't shipped all of Randy's stuff back, and they let Bernie use this because his pedal board was held up at customs, and it reacted very strangely, and I guess it spooked him.
yeah.
And he was very freaked out by it. He wasn't in the band much longer after that.